Probability homework help. For any homework-related queries, call us at +1 678 648 4277. You can mail us at info@excelhomeworkhelp.com or reach us at https://www.excelhomeworkhelp.com. For any homework-related queries, call us at +1 678 648 4277. You can mail us at info@excelhomeworkhelp.com or reach us at https://www.excelhomeworkhelp.com. Using probability. Probability to check the possibility of an event happening. Here, we use probability to see the connection between sleep and stroke. Also, we will use probability to see the connection between two types of cancers. Problem 1. A number of studies have been conducted to investigate the association between sleep duration and risk of stroke in middle-aged and older adults. One such study was conducted in a sample of 31,000 participants with an average age of 62 years. Information on sociodemographic characteristics and sleep duration was obtained by a self-administered questionnaire. The study took place over 6 years, during which 1,557 cases of stroke were documented. The risk of stroke was higher in participants who reported sleeping at least 9 hours per night, in comparison to the group who reported sleeping 7 to 8 hours per night. The relative risk was 1.23. A news article reporting the results stated, "Sleeping a lot may increase the risk for stroke." A new study has found that compared with sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night, sleeping 9 or more hours increased the relative risk for stroke by 23%. Maintaining appropriate sleep duration might hold great promise as primary prevention of stroke. www.excelhomeworkhelp.com. Write a short response to the newspaper editor explaining clearly why the article is potentially misleading. Be sure to use language accessible to a general audience without a statistics background. Limit your answer to at most 6 sentences. B. Suppose that you have purchased a 40-piece box of saltwater taffy. Taffy is a type of soft, chewy candy that became popular in the United States in the 1800s. The box is advertised as containing a random assortment of 8 flavors. Calculate the probability that at least one flavor is missing from the box. If using an algebraic approach, explain your reasoning and any necessary assumptions. If using a simulation approach, be sure to clearly comment any code and describe your logic. C. Accurately distinguishing lung cancer from benign lung disease remains challenging, even with the use of imaging scans. Computed tomography, CT, scans are known to have high sensitivity but poor specificity for lung cancer diagnosis. Tumor markers, molecules produced by a tumor associated with a cancer or by the body in response to a cancer, may be useful for clinical diagnosis. Consider 2 tumor markers for lung cancer, CYFRA 21:1 and CEA, which tend to be elevated in patients with lung cancer relative to those with benign lung disease. A study was conducted on patients with known lung cancer status to assess how these tumor markers could be used for clinical diagnosis. www.excelhomeworkhelp.com. The study team observed that in patients with lung cancer, CYFRA 21:1 is normally distributed with mean 4.7 nanograms per milliliter and standard deviation 9.2 nanograms per milliliter, while CEA is normally distributed with mean 5.9 nanograms per milliliter and standard deviation 19.8 nanograms per milliliter. In patients with benign lung disease, CYFRA 21:1 is normally distributed with mean 1.6 nanograms per milliliter and standard deviation 4.3 nanograms per milliliter, while CEA is normally distributed with mean 2.2 nanograms per milliliter and standard deviation 5.3 nanograms per milliliter. Use the data from this study to answer the following questions. I. Compute the sensitivity and specificity of a diagnosis test based on classifying patients with CYFRA 21:1 level greater than 3.3 nanograms per milliliter as having lung cancer. 2. Compute the sensitivity and specificity of a diagnosis test based on classifying patients with CEA level greater than 5.0 nanograms per milliliter as having lung cancer. 3. Explain the reasoning behind why a diagnostic test with low sensitivity may not be recommended for use in the general population but appropriate for use in high-risk groups, such as patients presenting with several risk factors or symptoms strongly predictive of lung cancer. Use language accessible to someone who has not taken a statistics course. Limit your answer to no more than 6 sentences. www.excelhomeworkhelp.com. 4. Suppose a high-risk patient is tested for elevated CYFRA 21:1 level and found to have CYFRA 21:1 level below the cutoff in Part 1. Explain whether it seems reasonable to rule out lung cancer for this patient based on this test result and the test features computed in Part 1. Limit your answer to no more than 6 sentences, referencing numerical results as necessary. The study team is interested in whether a diagnostic test based on both CYFRA 21:1 and CEA is an improvement over tests based solely on one of the markers. Suppose that a patient is classified as having lung cancer if at least one of the markers is above the cutoffs used in Parts 1 and 2, i.e., a patient tests positive for lung cancer if CYFRA 21:1 level is greater than 3.3 nanograms per milliliter, CEA level is greater than 5.0 nanograms per milliliter, or both are elevated. V. Compute the sensitivity and specificity of this diagnostic test. State any assumptions necessary to make the calculation and comment on whether those assumptions seem reasonable. 6. Does the diagnostic test based on both markers represent an improvement over the tests in Parts 1 and 2? For use in high-risk patients? Explain your answer, referencing numerical results to support your reasoning. www.excelhomeworkhelp.com. Solution. A. Dear Sir or Madam. With reference to your article about risks of longer sleeping hours to have a heart stroke, I am writing to clarify few points that I do not agree with. As a statistics graduate, I would like to point out that concept of relative risk is more complicated to express it as an increase in percentage. One would prefer to express relative risk in terms, risks of people with longer sleeping hours are more by factor 1.23 higher than those of with shorter hours. The other issue why the conclusion could be misleading is the fact it is self-administered questionnaire. That means could be measurement error or the sample given older age of the sample could be not representative. For example, if people in the category longer sleeping hours are older than those with shorter sleeping hours, then conclusion is completely wrong. In that respect, I would like to suggest to take extra care when trying interpret non-scientific or reviewed studies. We need to find probability that in the 40-piece box at least one of the 8 flavors not included. We calculate first the probability that the first flavor is missing. This is to say that the probability that each piece does not contain the first flavor. www.excelhomeworkhelp.com. The probability intersection of 40 independent events is the product of the following event. Any sample does not contain the first flavor, which is given by and hence the above probability is the product of all these events. Next we calculate this probability for other 7 flavors. Computing sensitivity and specificity with cut point of 3.3 nanograms per milliliter as having lung cancer. We generate data from a large sample with equal number of lung cancer patients. www.excelhomeworkhelp.com. N equals 10⁻5. Dat equals data.frame, cancer equals rep, c, yes, no, each equals n/2. Dat $cancer equals yes, CYFRA, equals norm, n/2, mean equals 4.7, SD equals 9.2, dat $cancer equals no, CYFRA, equals norm, n/2, mean equals 1.6, SD equals 4.3, dat $cancer